I strongly believe in the wide range of positivity that will arise by saving dolphins from the annual hunt in Taiji, Japan. However, when engaging in policy debate, it is important to understand not only the guidelines of the competition and the topic being discussed, but it is essential to be well informed on the components that make up a strong plan, whether it be affirmative or negative. There are various stock issues that my opponent had to touch on when affirming the proposed resolution if he desired to win. Among those issues and of extremely high importance is solvency. My opponent said that he was simply, quote, arguing that the United Nations should pass a resolution, end quote, and directly stated and later repeated that as a proposition, he does not need to provide solvency for this situation. He basically mentioned that his plan cannot be judged on his ability to solve the very same harms about the current status quo that he himself described in the same video. Essentially, as can be seen again after the 3-minute mark of this video, my opponent argued that his plan does not need to solve anything, that his plan is the best course of action since it is enough to put this issue globally out there for people to talk about, because then it will end up, quote, eventually leading to solvency, end quote. First off, life itself teaches you that in order for progress to happen, you need to be proactive. You can't just sit there and talk about things while waiting for action to happen. But secondly, and more important to this debate, my opponent's words explicitly prove that his plan is non-inherent. The fact that this is a resolved resolution, as is clearly stated on the tournament website, means that the people are already talking about this topic. This is already an issue at hand, so his plan of putting the word out there is already part of the status quo, which, as mentioned by him and fully supported by me, is one of urgent harms that needs immediate change. The proposition did an amazing job at presenting some of the harms of the status quo and why they should be changed. He kept topicality by addressing the issues at hand, but he failed miserably in the aspects of solvency, inherency, and therefore in the overall significance of his proposed course of action. He directly stated that his plan does not actually need to solve anything, so based on that, his plan is meaningless. So I urge you, judge, to reject it. Further, the lack of real action of his plan, whose purpose is for people to talk about the current issues and let it eventually get solved, is already a part of the problematic status quo, thus proving his plan to be non-inherent. So again, I urge you to reject the proposition. Put together, the negligence for solvency and the lack of inherency, these two concepts prove the complete insignificance of the proposition's plans. It will do nothing at all in regards to changing the status quo, so I strongly urge you yet again, judge, reject the proposition. So now, there is absolutely nothing that the proposition can argue in order to save itself, for its constructive time is over and my opponent cannot by the guidelines provide any new information. He cannot fix his plan by adding information to make it inherent or to cause it some kind of solvency. His proposal is for the rest of the round as it is now. It is incoherent and contradictory to itself. It illogically neglects the need for solvency and lacks inherency, which means zero significance. Basically, there are no reasons whatsoever to accept the proposition. Instead, the judge should reject it immediately. If the United Nations is to do anything, it should not be to demand the end of actions that on paper do not violate any current legislation or codes of law, which we all willingly choose to live by. Instead, the papers should be changed, meaning that dolphins should be given better rights on paper. The United Nations should first protect the wellness of the dolphins by means of advancing dolphin protection programs similar to the International Whaling Commission, or even by officially recognizing the Declaration of Rights for cetaceans and demanding worldwide respect of that mandate. Japan will comply to legal actions as it has complied to other UN mandates. Even though they look for loopholes to the law, recently, when the International Court of Justice ruled against Japan in a whaling case, the Japanese demonstrated their will to abide by the UN when they called off the whale hunt entirely. This plan is certainly about the topic as it directly supports the solving of all the harms enabled by and resulting from the dolphin hunt. It is not already an existing thing and therefore should become real because it could effectively solve the harms while adhering to the proper code of the law. So, to sum it up, the proposition definitely talked about the topic and mentioned its harms, but due to its weak nature, it gave me the grounds for presenting a real plan that's inherent and has solvency and great significance. So please accept my plan, judge, and reject the proposition of a plan that not only neglected solvency, but that is already in the status quo, therefore making it non-inherent, which together causes it to lack any sort of significance.